نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير. وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك والذين تدعون من دونه ما يملكون من قطمير إن تدعوهم لا يسمعوا دعاءكم ولو سمعوا ما استجابوا لكم ويوم القيامة يكفرون بشرككم ولا ينبئك مثل خبير. Respectful honorable friends, continuing with the verses which were recited in last week's tafsir. However, we didn't have, or time was less to complete the tafsir of it. In these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the verses recited as well as the previous verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been mentioning some of His qudrat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned some of, and the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala many occasions mentioned these signs of His ayat of His, in order for those who do not believe to contemplate upon the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who have iman, for them to inspire them further, inspire them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by reflecting even more on these qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As there are so many which we take for granted, for instance, rather than these things drawing us close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it can't, because we don't even contemplate upon them, or our minds may not even go in that direction. So further from the verses recited today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ ثُمَّ جَعَلَكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَمَا تَحْمِلُ مِنْ أُنثَى وَلَا تَضَعُ إِلَّا بِعِلْمِهِ. Allah Ta'ala has created you min turabin, from sand. ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ, and here by sand refers towards Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu salam. And then after Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu salam, you have been created from min nutfatin, from a seed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions ثُمَّ جَعَلَكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, and from there then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you in pairs. And the pairs refers towards male and female, and not male and female, male and female. وَمَا تَحْمِلُ مِنْ أُنثَى وَلَا تَضَعُ إِلَّا بِعِلْمِهِ. And He has knowledge of every female that conceives and delivers. وَمَا يُعَمَّرُ مِنْ مُعَمَّرٍ وَلَا يُنْقَصُ مِنْ عُمُرِهِ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ. And every aged person who ages and every who age is decreased is recorded in the book. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ. This is simple for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of one of His qudrat, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us from turab. And by turab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. That how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam mold from sand. And insan as well has been created from sand. And depending on from which part of the earth and land the soil had been taken, that is the race of that individual. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, from that sand, after thereafter, Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam's mold was created by sand, but then insan is not born in clay or mud or sand. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the later generations after Adam alayhi salatu wasalam created them from seed. And that is what from seed is in the sperm. Nutfa means sperm. And this is one of the great qudrats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, but a reminder to us as well, that of what material we have been created from. Each time pride and arrogance overtakes us and overpowers us, we should not forget what our haqiqat is, what our reality is. And not only that, where that reality has come from, and which passage we have come through to enter into this world as well. So this is the haqiqat, this is the reality of insan. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not only that, but look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created insan, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, in the best of forms. But for the best of forms, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not utilized the best of material. Allah ta'ala has used maheen, the most filthy, and Allah ta'ala has used inferior material. But from that inferior material, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created insan in ahsani taqweem, in such a perfect manner and beautiful manner. This is the great qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, Saadi Zulfikar, does anybody have his number? Comes from Bradford. ऐसा ना हो कि बेचारे वो मगरिब का ज़हन में हो और मगरिब में आ जाए बेचारा. चलिए. Although we did make elan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here that how Allah ta'ala from this maheen, Allah ta'ala then creates insan fi ahsani taqweem, in the best of forms. This is only the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other manufacturers would need to have quality material to produce something which is of quality. And if you're going to use cheap material, then it's going to be one-pound shop stuffs. So depending on the material you use, that's what you're going to get as well. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us from the worst of material, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in the best of forms. And nothing but the qudrat of Allah ta'ala. And then from that Allah ta'ala has made you in pairs, male and female. And these are those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already, as Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the hadith, that these things, 4 things are already destined for a person when he's in the mother's womb. That when the child is still developing, the angels ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مُخَلَّقُةٌ أَوْ غَيْرَ مُخَلَّقَ, that is this child going to complete the term or not? Otherwise then you have a miscarriage. And when it is destined, yes, and on the 120 days have passed, and the ruh is blown into the soul is blown into the child, when life comes into the child, that's when it is already recorded with regards to this person. From the things that are recorded at that time is that dhakrun aw untha, the gender of that child is already destined at that time and fixed at that time. Shaqiyun am sa'idun, whether the child will be righteous or not righteous. And also with regards to the ajal of that individual, how long they're going to live, how much risk is destined for them, that is also written at that time. These are 4 things that are already fixed whilst the child is in the womb of the mother. So from the 4, one is the gender is already fixed at that time. The angels ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this child is going to be a male or a female. And that is already ordained, which means what? that there should be no confusion later on. There should be no confusion later on at all. Why? Because it is already destined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fixed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when it is fixed as well, in order to avoid any confusion later on as well, that was it supposed to be a male or female? Allah Ta'ala has created the genders differently as well, that it is impossible for you to miss whether it is a male or a female. Now what else does a person need than that? What else does a person need than that? Yes, when a child is born, if it is a male, the parents can dress it up with what? Female clothing, for instance, or the vice versa. But the child, the physical body of the child cannot hide the gender of the child. So these are things which are already ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fixed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no scope for any confusion at all. And for a person to later on object to this, or for a person to make any other claims later on, that no, in actual fact I am a female in a male body or a male in a female body, this is what? Objecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or making this da'wah and claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a mistake. That Allah ta'ala made a mistake, isn't it? That I was supposed to be a male, but Allah ta'ala made me a female. I was supposed to be a female, but Allah ta'ala made me a male. So this is what happens. This is the objection that it comes down to. Those who do not have iman, they don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they do not believe in these things. They can make whatever claims they want to make. They can make whatever claims they want to do. But a believer now, because this is what happens, as Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala mentioned, that he said, you'll see the Yahud and Nasara, and whatever you see them doing, you'll be doing the same as well. They fall in a pit, you'll fall in the same pit as well. I mean, you'll follow them. And this is how we have become as Muslims as well. That when this is an environment created around us, then Muslims think, okay, yes, okay, we can also go down that route as well. But a Muslim is a Muslim after all. A Muslim thinks very differently. A Muslim's aqidah is very different as well. A Muslim cannot think like this at all, as thinking in such a manner is objecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no, if there is any confusion anywhere, it's not by the angels or by the Creator. The confusion is in our own minds. It is in our own minds because our minds have been messed up. And because of that, and that is because society, that's how society has become messed up, and that is the case here as well. Wherein this wasn't the case at all. Every male knew that he is a male, every female knew that she is a female. There was no confusion whatsoever. And part of a person's qadr is that a person should be content that maybe if there is a female, for instance, who's having it difficult as a female, and she wishes that if only Allah Ta'ala created me as a male. So imagine that way, isn't it? Then she should have suffered upon the hardship difficulty that she may go through. If she thinks that the life of a male is better than that of a female, and if only I was a male instead of a female. Then for them it's a case of, look, Allah Ta'ala made me as a female, so that is the case of this, my taqdeer, I need to be happy with that. You won't really get a male thinking that if only Allah Ta'ala created me as a female, unless maybe in the month of Ramadan when I get a few days off or something. But aside from that, I don't think even then one will think that way. But that is just a general thought that a woman may have, that look, the men have it a bit different to us as females, and we have more hardship and difficulty, especially when they do. Physically, how Allah Ta'ala has created them, and the difficulty that they go through in marriage and after marriage and childbirth and these type of cycles in their life. So that is a totally different matter. There the solution is that you have to be content with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah Ta'ala has meant and chosen for you. And leave that is there. There isn't anything further that when that is the case, that now it means that I need to do something and I need to change myself. Because that change cannot come about at all, because that change has already been written from the onset before the child is born, and that is something that is fixed, and that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah Ta'ala made you in pairs, meaning from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, Sayyidina Hawa, and then male and female. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, And He has knowledge of every female that conceives and delivers. وَتَحْمِلُ مِنْ أُنْثَى وَلَا تَضَعُ إِلَّا بِعِلْمِ. That every female, Allah Ta'ala has full knowledge of every female that conceives and what she delivers, whether she is going to or she isn't going to. All of this is in the knowledge of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. One may say and think as well that in our times now, when the mother that conceives, she knows as well, the doctors will know as well, they scan as well to even identify the gender as well. Then fine, these are those things. But there is no contradiction at all, because the knowledge that we have is limited knowledge to the knowledge that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has. No ultrasound and no scans is going to then give you more detail with regards to that child. That okay, the gender maybe, and that to them, but will that child, how long that child is going to live, the child is going to be righteous or not righteous, the child is going to do what in life, so many other things. How long he is going to live are things that nobody knows but Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And then further Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions that وَمَا يُعَمَّرُ مِنْ مُعَمَّرٍ وَلَا يُنْقَصُ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ. That Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says that whoever from those who have been conceived now, Allah Ta'ala then says that it is now every aged person, وَمَا يُعَمَّرُ مِنْ مُعَمَّرٍ, the one who is going to age, meaning the person who reached old age, and then the one who وَلَا يُنْقَصُ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ, and the one who is going to age is going to be decreased, meaning that the one who does not reach old age, إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ. All of this is in the kitab. All of this is also recorded in the book, in the Lawh Mahfuz. And as in this hadith I mentioned to you, the ajal, the lifespan of this person is also ordained, fixed at that time already in the womb of the mother. And part of that which is fixed in the womb of the mother is with regards to who's going to live till into old age and who's going to live in young age, you can say. I mean the one who does not reach old age. With regards to this section of the verse, وَمَا يُعَمَّرُ مِنْ عُمَّرٍ وَلَا يُنْقَصُ مِنْ عُمْرِهِ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ, the Mufassirin mentioned that this is in the general form, not specific, because there's two tafsir here. One is a general form. And in the general form, it means that it refers to what? It refers to insan in general. That in general, as the whole humanity or mankind, there will be those who Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gives them a long life. And there are those who Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala does not give them a long life. A long life is not destined for them. They do not reach old age. So that is something which is straightforward. There are those who pass away young age, there are those who pass away middle age, and some alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala gives them a long life. And the other tafsir is here, is with regards to the individual. So each individual, his life itself. Means that each individual, either Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gives him a long life or he doesn't have a long life. Which means that every person's destiny and how long they're going to live, this is something that is fixed and you cannot change that. As life goes, passes, as the poet says, as well, that our lives are what? Our lives are a combination of what? Of our breathing. It is a combination of our breathing. That hayatuna anfasun tu'uddu kullama maza. That each time, each breath of our life is a combination of our breathing. And each time one breath passes by, in qasadun minhu juz'un minhu. That each time a breath passes by, a section and a portion of our life also passes by. So it's a combination of the amount of breathing we will have in our life, that is fixed. And each breath is decreasing the quota of breathing that we will have in our lives. So he refers to a person's individual life. And this is something which is also illa fi kitab, fixed in the book of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, which cannot change. So that individual who Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has destined that look, he's going to have a long life, he will only have a long life. His life will not be cut short. And the person who Allah Ta'ala has destined that they will not reach old age, will not reach old age. And there is no contradiction to the hadith Where, for instance, in one hadith, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions, مَنْ يَسُرُّهُ أَيُّبْسَرَ لَهُ فِي رِزْقِهِ وَيُؤْثَرَ لَهُ فِي أَثَرِهِ فَلْيَصِلْ رَحِمَهُ. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned that one who desires that Allah Ta'ala gives him abundance in rizq, that there is barakat for him in his rizq, and the one who desires that his life is extended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he should do what? He should maintain ties. For Yasil Rahimahu, he should maintain ties with his family. Now here in this riwayat it mentioned the one who desires that his lifespan should be increased. Whereas here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the one whose life is there, the one who isn't, is already destined in fi kitab, in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So which means here that the barakat, that there may be a person who lives a long life, but there was no barakat in that person's long life. A person may live a short life, but there is barakat in that person's short life. Means that the amount they achieved in that period of time is much more than the one who lived a lot longer. That's why with regards to this riwayat hadith as well, that the one who desires that his lifespan is increased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the muhaddithin mentioned in one of the shara and commentary of it is that it means what? That such a person will be given offsprings that will continue with his legacy, that will do good deeds for him, so that although he lived, whatever he lived maybe 60 years even, or 70 years, or 40, 50 years. That means what? That his amal have now come to an end now. In person dies, his amal comes to an end, his life comes to an end, his amal comes to an end. But the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants pious offsprings and they continue doing the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala later on, the reward continues with this person. So it is as if that one child did ibadat of Allah ta'ala, good deeds for another 30, 40 years, and then they passed away. So that means this person who passed away at the age of 50 has ended up with what? 80 years of ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has actually increased them in their age. Increased them in such a manner that their barakat continues. And the other, as I mentioned to you, is that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives barakat. There are those who, the likes of Maulana Qasim Nanuti rahmatullah alayhi, who passed away at the age of 38. At the age of 38, Maulana Qasim Nanuti rahmatullah alayhi. And look at the reward and what the work that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken from Maulana Qasim Nanuti rahmatullah alayhi. The first principle of Darul Ulum Deoband, and the amount of students and all those who regard themselves to be a Qasmi. So just imagine how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given barakat in his ummah, and the amount of work that they had done in that short lifespan of theirs. And then you'll have those who have lived 80 years, 90 years even, and what have they done? There isn't much that they have done at all. And there are even those who have done nothing at all, have died in that state as well, where they still haven't even started reading their salat, nothing at all for the sake of the akhirat. Or if they have, then it might be the last 10 years of their life, last 20 years of their life, 30 years of their life. And this is what I mentioned in the Wednesday Majlis as well, that look, that person who already, from the time of becoming Baligh of Bulugh, is already on the right track. And just imagine for them till the end, the entire lives have been spent in what? In the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How fortunate that person is. That is barakat in that person's life. Even if they live for 50 years, that means what? From the time they became baligh, that entire life of theirs till 50 even or 60. We may assume that this is a short life, but in actual fact it is a long life. Because that entire life of theirs has been spent in the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as I mentioned, in comparison, that person lives 80, 90 years. But hasn't done anything at all in the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna dhalika ala Allahi yasir. Allah Ta'ala says, this is simple for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is simple for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Meaning, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep record of all of these things is simple for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it isn't difficult for Allah Ta'ala. So do not think that Allah Ta'ala forgot and made a mistake, na'uzubillah, in the womb of the mother, that this child was supposed to be a male or a female, or the amount of risk was mixed up, somebody else was supposed to be poor and this child was supposed to be rich, and things have got to be mixed up here. And he's getting a lesser portion of his risk, or he's living a little less, or he's not reaching old age and this person is, whereas they were not supposed to, and how long a person will live, and all this. Whatever is destined for a person, inna dhalika ala Allahi yasir. This is simple for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, for us the case of we need to collect data, we need to store the data and make sure that it is backed up and everything and whatnot. And there is always the fear that, and the possibility that the data could then become corrupt. But here with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is in the case that data will never become corrupt. All information recorded is simple for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues with His qudrat. It says, وَمَا يَسْتَوِي الْبَحْرَانِ, that the two water masses are not the same. Meaning that the manner in which, how the joining of oceans and rivers and lakes are not the same. In what sense? That هَذَا عَزْبٌ فُرَاتٌ, the one river lake is sweet, meaning it is drinkable. Furatun, quenching. Sa'ighun sharabuhu, so that it is sweet and it is quenching and easy to drink. وَهَذَا مِلْهٌ أُجَاجٌ, while the other sea water is salty and bitter. I mean, the water is water after all. So you have a stream, you have a lake. Go to the stream, go to the lake, and you can drink from it nicely. Go to the ocean and you can't drink from it at all. And it is water after all, it is water, same thing. But how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, look, they are not the same. One is that you can drink and benefit from and quench yourself, and the other isn't. And there is great hikmah in this as well. That the ocean and the sea, that is water, that if a person needs water in your normal life, and that you're not just going to go all the way to the sea to get the water. So mankind does not live directly by the sea and take that water for drinking purposes. And that is, the access to it is difficult as well, because depending on the tide as well, you're going to either have to walk so far to get to the water. So that will differ as well. So that water is what? That water is salty, it is bitter. And the other reason why it is salty and bitter is because there is so much life inside the ocean. And if all that life inside the ocean, when it dies, if the water is sweet, then it is going to corrupt the entire water. So in order for that water to remain clear and clean all the time and pure as well, Allah Ta'ala has created it salty and bitter. And the water that man needs, Allah Ta'ala has made it more accessible to us, the rivers and lakes. That is where people can easily go there, and the water is just going to be there, you take and benefit from it. If that water was salty, then that would become so difficult for people. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made what's sweet. So next time a person goes to somewhere where there's fountains and lakes, and you go for a walk there, think about these verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You take water and drink it, and think about it as well. That look, you can't just go to the sea and start drinking the water there. This is what وَهَذَا مِلْهٌ أُجَاجٌ وَمِنْ كُلٍّ تَأْكُلُونَ لَحْمًا طَرِيًّا وَتَسْتَخْرِجُونَ حِلْيَةً تَلْبَسُونَهَا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions from each of these, meaning the masses of water. وَمِنْ كُلٍّ تَأْكُلُونَ, you eat لَحْمًا طَرِيًّا. Allah ta'ala says you eat fresh meat. And here fresh meat refers was the fish. Tariya is, لَحْمًا طَرِيًّا is fish. وَتَسْتَخْرِجُونَ حِلْيَةً, and you extract jewels. تَلْبَسُونَهَا, that you wear, meaning pearls. Now look at both Allah Ta'ala is mentioning. That in both water you'll have both of these two ni'mas of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمِن كُلٍّ تَأْكُلُونَ, you'll eat from لَحْمًا طَرِيًّا. Allah Ta'ala doesn't just say fish, but Allah Ta'ala says here the word lahm, which means meat. And tariya means fresh. You eat fresh meat. And the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says lahman tariya here instead of just saying fish itself is to show us that the fish is always halal. It doesn't need slaughtering as you would do with other meat. So it is also a form of meat, but it is what tariya, it is fresh. Means that it is always fresh, there is no need for you to do what, and because it is lahm, the word lahm is to indicate that it is what it is halal for you. And the reason, one of the reasons is because fish does not have flowing blood in it. Other animals that you sacrifice, the other animals that you slaughter has flowing blood in it. And because of that, what you do when it is slaughtered, the blood is let out, and the blood is cleared, the animal, the meat is then cleared of the blood. Otherwise, then as it is, if it dies and the blood, then it does what? It gathers and it becomes solid, and that is not good for a person. It is impure as well. Whereas fish does not have flowing blood. And because of that, even if you do say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you start and try and do zabah of it, there isn't any, no blood's going to flow from it anyway. So for that reason, Allah Ta'ala has made it very easy for you, that as it is. But the only ruling is with regard to it is, one is that it needs to be a fish, first of all. And the other is, means that you don't need everything that is in the ocean. Although there are different opinions with regards to other life that is in the ocean, but for the Ahnaf is the case of it needs to be a fish. That is one. And the other is that it needs to be captured as well, and it has to be fished whilst it is alive. If it is has already lost its life and is dead, then according to Ahnaf, you won't consume it then. So it needs to be alive when it was caught. And this is lahman tariya. So Allah Ta'ala says, وَمِن كُلٍّ, which shows us what? That you get fish in the sea and you get fish in the lakes as well. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَتَسْتَخْرِجُونَ حِلْيَةً تَلْبَسُونَهَا, and Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, and you extract jewels that you wear from both, which shows as well that against that which is common known, that pearls are only found in the sea, it means here that pearls can also be found in lakes and rivers as well. Although predominantly you will find them in the sea more than in lakes, but it doesn't mean that it is not available or not possible to find them in the lakes. Otherwise Allah Ta'ala would not have mentioned both together here with both lakes and the sea. And with regards to Allah Ta'ala says it is hilyatan, it is what? A jewel. So this is the pearls that are as eggs, they're in the oyster. Talbasunaha, that you wear. And here Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions the word talbasunaha in a masculine form, indicating that pearls, it is permissible for men to make use of pearls, compared to whereas gold, that is something, a jewelry, which is not permissible for men. However, pearls, for men to utilize pearls is allowed and permissible. That's why Allah Ta'ala mentions it in the masculine form. These are so unique, the elegancy of the Qur'an, of how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions these things. وَتَرَى الْفُلْكَ فِيهِ مَوَاخِرَ, and then further Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions, you will see the ships مَوَاخِرَ, through the water, moving through the water. لِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, so that you seek from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's bounty. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, and so that you show gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Again, the ship that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has created, which moves through the waters, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has made this as well beneficial for us. How dependent we are on what? On cargo, on ships. How dependent we are on it. And just imagine, and most of you have seen cargo ships, isn't it? And just imagine the amount of weight that is on there and the amount of goods that is there on one cargo ship. And how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has enabled that ship to be able to carry that. Never mind that load, the load of the ship itself is floating on the water, and on top of that, the amount of load that is on there. This is the great bounty of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. إِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ means to seek from Allah's bounty, means your livelihood. Your livelihood, because this is how livelihood is. People import and export. And if you're going to import things from where? From China, which majority is coming from China, and how does it come from China? It doesn't come by flight all the time. How many flights? How expensive that is going to become as well, and how much that flight and that cargo plane cannot bear that amount of weight as that of these ships can bear. So the amount of vehicles upon vehicles and huge heavy vehicles and so much goods. Let me just see, you can see for yourselves, and next time you're somewhere by the port or so, and you see these huge tankers, and you see all the containers on it. Then remember these verses of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that Allah Ta'ala has made all this possible, otherwise it will be so difficult for us. So now when we do have things which have come from overseas, we should show gratitude to the great bounties of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that how quickly these things can get to us. Otherwise it will be a case of until somebody doesn't actually fetch something from them, bring it to us, it wouldn't come to us. Like nowadays, many of those who go for Hajj and Umrah, for instance, so there is some airports, some flights who are allowing Zamzam, some who are not allowing Zamzam. But now that isn't an issue anymore. because you can get it here. In the past it was a case of you wouldn't get any Zamzam at all until somebody actually doesn't come from Hajj or Umrah, you wouldn't get Zamzam. And that's why people appreciated Zamzam. Now you don't appreciate Zamzam, isn't it? Somebody has come from Hajj and Umrah and they give you a Hajj, they give you a bag, and when you open it and you look in, and you put in the Zamzam aside, you put in the khujur aside, you know, that's all. So you're looking for the gifts. Whereas before, people used to go to people's house just for what? Along with just greeting that person, they used to actually go all the way there specifically for what? To see that person for what? For the Zamzam. And they will be waiting for the craving for the Zamzam, that we get the blessed Zamzam or a khajur from Madinatul Munawwara. Now it's a case of to save luggage in that. You don't need to bring khajur from there. You just get the khajur locally. You just get the khajur locally as well. You save on weight as well. Because, and somebody recently when for Umrah was mentioning that it's cheaper to buy it here. And it's the same thing. You know, the same khajur that has come from there, which has come here as well. So it's cheaper as well, mentioning. So rather just get it here and just give that to the person. So in this way, whenever we have this type of goods, to what remember that this is the great qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this nizam, that how so much goods reach us from all parts of the world. And the purpose of all of this, why is Allah ta'ala created the lakes, the oceans, and the water sweet somewhere and bitter elsewhere, and made fish halal for us, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made His conveyance easy for us, cargo easy for us, that's so that وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you show gratitude to Him for this bounty of His. So that you show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His bounty. This is the reason for it. And this is why Allah ta'ala reminds us, because so many of these things, as I mentioned to you, we go so many times to the ocean, we go so many times to the lakes and the sea and that. And the ocean, when you go to the sea, don't go to the beach side. You shouldn't be going there to see. There you'll be seeing other bounties of Allah ta'ala and saying Subhanallah wahwa. So that which you not supposed to. That's why people go there for that bounty. Go to where this quiet, go somewhere else to see the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you do go to the countryside and that, and you see the river, the streams and the lakes, and how there's no fridge freezers there at all, fridge systems there at all, but how cool that water is and how sweet it is. Naturally how it is the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you do the shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ وَيُولِجُ النَّهَارَ فِي اللَّيْلِ. Allah enters the day into the night and the night into the day. وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ, and has made the sun and the moon subservient to you. Meaning that they all provide benefit for mankind. كُلُّ يَجْرِي لِأَجْلٍ مُسَمَّى, each travels to an appointed term. So here how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this example I've mentioned many times to you, يُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ, Allah enters the day into the night, and the night into the day. Like we have now as well. We came Asr time, it was light, and now we come close to Maghrib, it is dark. And when night does come as well, how does it come? It comes in a manner without any disturbance to us whatsoever. Like for us, for instance, when we need to do what, it becomes dark, you want light, you have to switch the light on. So from total darkness, you come into light. And then when you switch the light off, it becomes total dark. Such a great change that comes about there, isn't it? Or change of scenery. And here the change of scenery, you come maybe Asr time, it was different. You leave from the masjid and it's dark. But there isn't any disturbance to us at all. That all of a sudden it just become totally dark. And then gradually it has become a little light so that we're able to see outside. Or then in the morning all of a sudden it just becomes light all of a sudden. That doesn't happen at all as well. Or that is a case of total darkness, we need to change the scenery. And change of scene. Draw the curtains, change of scene. Draw the curtains, another change of scene. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enters the day into the night and the night into the day. This is what the great qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And alhamdulillah, mankind doesn't need to do anything at all. وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ, has made the sun and the moon subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has made that subservient as well. So we do not need to worry about that at all. They are doing their task that Allah ta'ala has created it for. We do not need to worry about it at all. That is the day when we wake up and wait, how come the sun hasn't risen at all? Why? Because there's too much traffic in heaven. So too many clouds going by in the way or something. So the sun will say, what? Sorry, but I slept in. So we don't have that at all. That the sun sleeps in. Or the moon doesn't want to go. No, it's a night, I don't stay. I don't want to go at all in the morning and at night. The moon just wants to stay. Now there's a clash between the sun and the moon. And neither do they collide. There's an eclipse, but they don't collide into one another. Sorry, there's a slight accident in the heavens because the moon collided with the sun. None of that happens at all, isn't it? How smoothly. And our affairs, our matters, the alarm was when didn't go, it went, it didn't go, I got the timing wrong, or it's this fault or that fault, or this fault or that fault, or it's one for servicing. The sun and the moon, from the creation till the end, are functioning, and never is there any delay at all, any servicing taking place at all. And precisely as you have it on the timetable, the sunrise time, that is how it is setting and rising. And kullu yajri li ajlin musamma, each one, and the sun and the moon travels to an appointed term. The appointed term li ajlin musamma refers towards when it will come to an end, meaning the day of Qiyamah, where it's going to then come to an end. And li ajlin musamma is also how it orbits, it's what Allah Ta'ala has created it for. And this is again the nizam of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that you do not find that the sun just rises when it wants to or sets when it wants to. Same with the moon as well. The moon does not have any choice of its own, and Allah Ta'ala has created it a system of how it will then functions and how it orbits and that. So this is a science of its own, and this is science that Allah Ta'ala is mentioning here. So it isn't a case of the moon will just be seen anywhere in the world, or rather a case of what there is some holiness in the moon, that only the Holy Land will be the first one to see the holy moon. That only Saudi Arabia will see the moon every time. But in this case, it has its rotating manner. So not every country, different country will see it accordingly from the east till the west, how it becomes. This is all the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ لَهُ الْمُلْكُ. Allah Ta'ala says that this, who, meaning this creator, ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ, means this creator is Allah. Rabbukum, who is your Rabb. Lahul mulk, to him belongs the kingdom. And وَالَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ, and those whom worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَا يَمْلِكُونَ مِن قِتْمِيرٍ, they have control, they have no control. Besides Allah, do not have control of even the skin of a date seed. Min qitmir means the skin on the date seed, meaning something so minute even, or something which you regard to be insignificant, that they are unable to create something that is so insignificant as well. Compare that to all these qudrat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning. Of these few examples that Allah Ta'ala gives of so many things. And again, as I mentioned to you over and over, and Allah Ta'ala gives these examples many places in the Qur'an. These are those things we overlook. We overlook these type of things and do not realize these type of things. Look, when we go to at night as well, that we think as well that, look, this is the qudrat of Allah Ta'ala. Imagine if it was daylight all the time. In there are parts of the world where this 6 months, it is daytime. Just imagine how inconvenient it is for them. Imagine if that was the case throughout. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it such that if it's so bright all the time, how would we be able to sleep at night? And people would be out, and there'll be deliveries going on, and there'll be cars coming up and down throughout the night. You wouldn't be able to sleep. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it such that night falls, insan's body naturally comes into sleep mode. And when that is the case, everything around us, the atmosphere around us, Allah Ta'ala has created such that also settles down. The brightness goes